Hey guys, how you doing today? Today's video is titled When You Feel the Shift, Trust God when He's moving behind the scenes. When you feel the shift, trust God when He's moving behind the scenes. Have you ever had a unsettling feeling? Maybe like something you couldn't explain. I was trying to put it into words, but it's simple. Just a feeling of something, but you can't really explain it. Maybe you feel something different. You feel like a shift in your life, in your situation, but you can't quite put your finger on it. You don't know exactly what it is. And I'm hoping that I'm not the only one, because I can't even really give you the explanation, but I feel like I should make this video because it's like deep in my gut, in my spirit. That kind of shift that you start or you begin to notice changes in people's attitude, conversation, the environment, even the way like certain situation or certain people approach you. It feels like the scales have shifted. It feels like your spirit is sensing something before your eyes can fully understand it. And those moments, I feel like God is reminding us. He's saying to us, be still and know that I am God. Psalms 46, verse 10. Because while you may not see what's happening around you, God does. And God is already working behind the scenes. See, there are some seasons in our life when God allows us to sense a change before it even happens. There are times that God reveals seasons, but He doesn't give us a reason. Oh, that rhymes. Not every feeling of uncertainty is meant to create fear in you. Sometimes that's God's way of speaking to us. Sometimes it's the leading of the Holy Spirit. Sometimes it's an invitation from God for you to draw close. It's a time for you to become more prayerful when you feel that uncertainty, or that's not quite an uncertainty, but like an unsettling. This is God calling you to be more watchful and more dependent on Him. That's how I feel in this moment. And I come to realize that during that time when you feel unsettled, you don't quite know what it is, you can't put your finger on it, but you know there is a faithful and a sovereign God that is just moving things around, putting things in order. He's shifting the scales, and He's putting even you and the people in order. But you got to be careful about this, because you have to also remember that the enemy, he prowls around, wanting to eradicate and ruin souls and cause confusion. the type of confusions that he wants you to focus on. He wants you to spend all your energy trying to figure out every move, every conversation, every possibility. That way your focus is not on God. Your focus is not on your faith. Your focus is not on you being elevated, being changed. See, this is when the enemy, he goes in over time. Because the enemy doesn't want you to be peaceful. That's why you have to position yourself in your faith. You have to posture yourself so that you can receive that peace. You have to posture yourself also, position yourself also in trust. You have to understand that the same God who sees everything, he sees what is hidden, he sees what is formulating, he sees what is being spoken, he sees the shift, the plots, the schemes that are moving around in the midst that you feel the unsettling feeling. Not in the fear of what the enemy doing, but in the unsettling because you don't quite know what it is, but you feel it in your spirit. The enemy has no power because they want you to focus more on them so that you can lose focus on what God is doing for you. And I want you to understand that the same God that is, who sees, who hears, he is the same God who protects his children. You know, Psalms 37, verse 3. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. God does not need for you to understand what he's doing. He doesn't need for you to understand every detail before you obey him. He doesn't need for you to see the entire path before you take the next steps. See, what God is awaiting, what he wants from you is that you are aligned with him, you trust in him, you stay close to him. God simply asks you to trust him so that he can guide you. Don't worry about the other things. See, the enemy has, I always say, has their parts to do, and you have your part to do in faith. They are children of darkness, and they have to do what they are called to do. And that is to bring division, to bring confusion, to scheme, to shake up your peace, while God is actually establishing your foundation. The enemy tries to shake up territories even. But I'm here to tell you the enemy cannot overthrow what God has already established. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54, verse 17. Remember, storms don't mean that God has abandoned you. Sometimes the storms, they reveal where your foundation has been built. Sometimes you need that storm to know how solid is the ground that you're standing on. See, Jesus, he's told his disciples about two people who built houses. And one of them built the house on the sand, and the other built the house on the rock. And when that storm came, the house that was built on the rock, that house was so strong that it remained standing. Now you can read about that parable on Matthew 7, verse 24 to 27. See, the difference was not actually the storm. What Jesus was trying to portray is that the difference was the foundation. When your foundation is in Jesus Christ, you can walk through uncertainty. You can walk through chaos without losing your peace. Now, the Bible has given us example. We can consider David. Now, when David was being pursued by Saul, David had every reason to be afraid. Saul was very dangerous, and Saul was relentless. Saul had a evil and hardened heart, jealousy, envy. And envy is one thing that you should really, really fear when you hear someone come against you with that. See, Saul knew that someone who was seeking to do him harm and had so much persistence and obsession of pursuing him, and that did make David fear. David even thought that he was surrounded by danger. He was uncertain. Yes, David had faith. He was close to God's heart. But when you balance the type of people, the enemy that pursue you, you have to really balance it out. You're human. And David, he too was human. But I'm going to say that even though that David had uncertainty and maybe a slight fear, but he didn't let that fear stop him to seek God. He didn't let fear master his faith. He continued to worship. He continued to trust. See, David understood something more powerful than everything that Saul thought that he could do against him. He knew that the presence of God was greater than the pressure that was coming against him. Because he wrote, "Though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." Psalms 23, verse 4. David didn't say there was no valley. He said God was with him in the valley. Now I'm here to tell you in this video not to incite fear, but sometimes I know that we have a feeling of unsettling and we don't quite understand what's happening, and we, see changes happening around us. Not all changes are bad. Sometimes that's how God works. He levels out the field. God balances the scale. Sometimes God doesn't take away your enemies completely. Sometimes God allows the shaking so your enemies can feel that they are in hot pursuit, so that they can expose themselves, so that the work of God can be presented, so that he may get all the glory. You may sense right now that a change is happening around you. Maybe you don't have all the answers. But I'm saying to you, don't allow uncertainty to steal your faith. Pray before you react. Seek God for wisdom before you make a decision. Seek God before you take your next step. Not every battle requires your response. Some battles requires your surrender. Some battles requires for you to stand still and just watch the movement. Sometimes God protects you by removing you from places, from relationships, from situations, from locations. But you don't have to completely understand it yet. God doesn't have to give you the blueprint of every step and every movement that he's making in your life. Sometimes God has to allow the shaking. Sometimes God has to probably allow you to come around the mountain again, so that he can eliminate everything at once. See, God delivered his people and he allowed them to go through the ocean, and he split it because he couldn't, not that he couldn't, but God didn't want to eliminate, the chariots and the pursuers all one by one. God allowed for his people to be freed to go through and split the sea so that they can have freedom. At the same time, he stopped the chariots that were pursuing. He eliminated the danger for his people all in one. So I'm here to tell you that you have to trust God. Trust God even though that you cannot see. See, the same God who protected David is the same God who guided Moses. That's the same God who strengthened Elijah. That's the God who carried his people through the wilderness. God is faithful. He's faithful today, tomorrow, yesterday, and the year before, the year after. See, the enemy may be working in the shadows, but God is working in the ways that you cannot see. The enemy bring about certain things to put barriers in your life. You know, we don't want to give the enemy all the glory all the time, but you know, it's always a struggle with this kind of content. But some way or another, God lets it go through. And I know that this type of testimony will help. It's not that in the midst of the quiet, the surroundings, there's no shaking around me. Almost definitely. You know, the enemy has to wander. They have to stay close by. They has to stay connected in a way to try to shake up so that the video doesn't go through. But you think that stops? No. Your faith has to be strong. You got to keep walking, keep praying, keep believing. Because the God who started a good work in you is faithful until it is completed. God says in Psalms 91 verse 1, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Your safety is not found in knowing every plan around you. Remember, God promises you that he gives angels charge over you. The enemy may feel that they're in hot pursuit and don't even recognize the protection that you have to your right, to your left. Your protection may be walking right aside of your enemy before they even attack. You have to believe that your safety is found in knowing that the one who holds every plan in his hand is carrying your life. Now, I want to tell you that this is not just a message. This is a declaration of faith. We're building a community that refuses fear, and we stand firmly in Jesus Christ. And we believe that when faith speaks, the heaven moves. So welcome to this channel. This is where surrender is strength, and faith is our language. And God, he is still speaking. So walk in faith, not in fear. Know that God is working. God is by your side, and he will never leave you if you put your trust in him. You don't have to know everything that is happening around you. You must be alert. You know, pray for your discernment to sharpen so that he may sharpen your discernment. But you don't have to know everything. God is in charge. Trust and believe in him. Trust in the light. He's a God of fire, and he will answer for you, cover you. Jesus didn't go to the cross just to lose this battle. Matter of fact, he went to the cross that Jesus will win this battle for you. I love you with the love of Christ, and I pray to see you on the next video. Bye.